grab some honey buns, some Nutty Bars, and gorge yourself on chocolate cake. We're heading to fat camp. We watched Camp Massacre. We watched it so you don't have to, so you know what time it is. Greetings, Moon Goons! What is up out there in Moon Goon land? We are Horrible Horror, the podcast where we watch the worst of horror movies. Movies so bad they're scary. I'm your host, Marshall Hampton. With me today, as always, is my best friend and co-host, Mr. Aaron Southworth. Aaron, how are you doing on this soggy, gray, overcast Saturday afternoon in St. Louis?
We have a Seattle-esque day here in St. Louis. This is the 4th of July weekend. This is the kind of weekend where it's like, you know, we got sticky buns, like literally our butts are sticking together because it's so hot, so humid, 100 degrees, a heat index of 110. Today it is 68 degrees, the high, overcast, raining, low of 59. What the fuck?
I am personally loving it.
I love it too. It's really nice. It's a nice switch up.
Amazing.
Most people who are horror fans really don't like the sun too much and the heat. You know, I don't.
Sun burns us.
You don't see too many sun bunnies out there watching horror films.
I guess that's
so. This is a great weather. This is
great horror movie weather.
Yeah.
So speaking of horror, today's movie is Camp Massacre. We're continuing on with our summer camp theme here.
This is our last one, right?
I don't know. It might keep.
For this month.
For this month,
yeah.
We'll just see. I mean, we might move away from camp movies and just do other summer-based
movies.
But
Sure. But yeah, we've been to camp a lot, so I think this might be our last trip to camp.
We're doing Camp Massacre, where they are starving to death. That is the tagline for this fiasco of a movie. It was released on April 12th of 2014. You can find it on Amazon, but if for those of you who actually still go to them, I originally found it at a family video where I rented it months ago. And just wanted to save it for, a summertime theme movie. So
family video, going to a video
store. You can
store.
actually go to a video store. They still have those, and you can go in and rent it.
Man, going to video stores. That's kind of it's almost becoming a lost, retail thing. It's becoming something that's going away.
That's true, but I would say one thing about video stores, especially in horror, like that was one thing I always loved. Like, was going to the video store and like just perusing the horror section, finding like some crappy old 80s like VHS.
Right.
And, like, what movies can I rent this time? And let's rent all these horror movies.
And you find a gem every once in a while.
Yeah. Now
there's a lot of crap, but that's why we're here.
Speaking of just, I don't say crap, but just it's an oddity. This movie is that it is long.
It is.
It is 2 hours and 10 minutes long. Well, let's say 2 hours by take away. We'll round it down to 2 if you take away the credits. But that is long for a horror movie, especially for an independent horror movie. This thing is long. It was written by Daniel Emery Taylor and also directed by him and a guy named Jim O'Hare were the directors. The cast has some people in it that have some clout. Most notably, if you look at the cover, it features Brie Olson, the porn star, front and center. It has Al Snow, the former WWE wrestler. And it has some other people, but one guy by the name of G. Larry Butler, who plays Coach TA. He has 148 credits to his name, dating all the way back from 1985 till present day. So he's still going. Also, a side note, both of the directors, Jim O'Hare and Daniel Emery Taylor, are in this movie. Daniel Emery Taylor plays Greg, one of the fat asses. But he's been doing movies since 1989. He was in things like Return of the Swamp Thing. And he was also in Telephone with Kayla Perkins.
This is the second time in a row we've mentioned
we get to the point where like fuck 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon. We start playing like 6 Degrees of Kayla Perkins, or maybe I don't know, maybe Ron Jeremy for at least for our show.
Who knows? They might cross paths.
Might cross paths.
Poor Kayla.
Also, another big horror name. I guess, cult favorite is Dick Warlock.
Yeah,
One,
Dick
just
Warlock.
the name, Dick Warlock. But
talking about porn, Ron Jeremy. What a great porn name, Dick Warlock. That's a great porn name.
It is. He has 174 credits as a stuntman alone, and then another, 39 as an actor. So he's done a ton of shit. He was in Friday the 13th, A New Beginning, which we've done on the show.
Mm-hmm.
Halloween 2 and 3. In Halloween 2, he actually played Michael Myers, or The Shape. He was in Escape from New York, Pumpkinhead, where he also played Clayton Heller in the movie. Movies as like The Abyss, Commando with Arnold Schwarzenegger, Casino, The Thing, Jaws, where he was Richard Dreyfuss' stunt double. And he was also Kurt Russell's stunt double on a TV show called The Quest.
That's what I was going to mention. Actually, he was he was Kurt Russell's personal stunt double for a lot of his stuff. You mentioned Escape from New York. You mentioned The Thing, other things that he's done. But yeah, Kurt Russell and Dick Warlock. And if anybody doesn't know, Kurt Russell is my man crush from
Aaron has like a
above.
major man crush for Kurt Russell.
I love Kurt Russell. If there's anybody I could be Kurt Russell.
And the last person I'm going to mention on the cast is Jim O'Rear. Other credits, he was like a man on a mission, like a do-it-all-yourself type guy for this movie, even though he didn't really direct it. But he was also credited as a producer. He did the music, he did the film editing, he did the special effects, visual effects, part of the casting department, costume and wardrobe department with Lisa O'Rear, which I'm guessing is his wife, and listed as the other crew with Lisa, Roger, and Susie O'Rear. So this was like a family project for them, and just like it's
a lot of hats.
That's a lot of hats.
It's a lot of hats.
So I dug.
You need a good organizer. That's like a lid store. That's a lot of hats.
Lids in the mall.
Yeah.
But I found this guy interesting because besides being an actor, he's also a stuntman, a writer, and a paranormal professional, which I'm not really sure what that means, but I mean, or what field, what he is. But
paranormal professional.
He began his career on tour as the youngest professional magician. He opened for David Copperfield, who was huge, like one of the biggest magicians of all time.
Made the Statue of Liberty disappear.
Yeah, along with Harry Blackstone Jr. and the great Tom Sony, who I guess other magicians would know him. He also opened for Cheap Trick. That's pretty cool.
Nice.
Yeah, as a magician, he opened for Cheap Trick.
Yeah, I Want You to Want Me. Yeah.
And he's also worked on some very big movies and shows with huge stars. Like, again, I'm not going to read them all off, but you can check it out if you really want to. And many also, besides overall this cast, is also many of the same cast members of this movie were also in a horror movie called The Hospital, which was also written by Jim O'Rear and Daniel Emery Taylor.
Were they on a bariatric floor of all those fat motherfuckers? Jesus.
Well, I think it's some of the girls and some of the other people too. Mm-hmm. But that movie is also written by Jim O'Rear and Daniel Emery Taylor, who is one of the directors of this film. So a lot of a lot
of little nuggets of information there.
Yeah, it's kind of fun to look into some of that. So on to the movie itself. Time to go to Fat Camp.
Oh boy.
We open at some hotel. Where I first thought was like, some like shore town along Connecticut or maybe Miami.
Well, I was thinking like Florida, and they talk about it's an island. It
turns out it's an island
somewhere in the Caribbean. Because it's got island. Jamaican music. It's like, hey man, no, I want to get like some jerk chicken, marijuana.
But it's a bunch of like white people walking around with like sailboats, and that's
it's Caribbean island. It's the nice places are inhabited by whites. They're not so nice, the natives.
So anyway, we have Brie Olson, who's there, this fat girl, and then some other kind of cute girl who are just doing a trip or something. Like,
they're checking into
spring break or what. They're
checking into a motel, a shitty motel, mind you.
Yeah, and they're talking about being away from home and just getting wild. And the other girl who you don't really know her name, it doesn't fucking matter. She's like, I want to suck off some hot guy in a bathroom somewhere, and like that's her whole thing.
Sweet.
And so the fat girl, who's named Holly, she just sits on the bed and eats candy.
Yeah. She's got like an open sore on her lips,
too.
Yeah,
it's like herpes or something.
It's pretty gross.
Weird. And it's bad enough that she's fat and the other girls are giving her shit for. But if you're that large, don't wear a hair clip or beret that looks like a chicken leg drumstick in your hair.
Yes. I thought that was pretty ridiculous. I mean, she's got to be pushing 400 plus pounds.
Oh, easily. Yeah.
She's eating candy, and she's got a drumstick hair beret in her hair.
Like, what?
So she's down on herself. She's like, no one's going to like it. Because the girl's like, hey, the two cute girls are talking about going out and leaving Fatty behind.
And they want to party.
But the Brie Olsen's like, no, we can't leave her behind. She's part of the group. And the fat girl's going, no, I really am fat. Brie Olson talks her up.
She has like a pity party for herself.
Brie Olson was like, no, you can be a strong, independent woman. It's about confidence. It's about confidence. It's a kind of a longer scene.
Yeah.
The fat girl finally goes, yeah, I do have confidence. You girls go off and have fun. I'm going to go get me a hot piece of Dark Island meat.
Yeah, which honestly is probably just a giant turkey leg, I'm guessing. Jamaican jerk chicken or something.
There you
I don't know.
Yeah. Get the thighs. That's a good dark meat.
But eventually Bree says, no, we're going to stay and hang out.
Yeah.
But no go. And it turns out Bree and Holly are supposed to be sisters.
I think it was like sorority. That's what I got. I got sorority. But anyway.
Yeah, I got sisters out of it, and which explains why the two skinny girls are hanging out with this fat girl, because you never see that.
I thought sorority.
And after some more meaningless chatter, Bree hurries off to go get ready. So she goes to the bathroom. Cue shower scene of Bree Olsen naked, which is nothing new, but she still looks great. But
so it's kind of funny. She's like, "Oh, I gotta get ready," and then it's like sexy shower scene.
Yeah, I was like, "What girl showers like this if they're in a hurry?"
Sticking her butt out, feeling her boobies. Don't get me wrong, I didn't mind watching.
I totally
it was fun, but it was just kind of funny. It's like, I gotta get ready.
It's like she's like fucking the water or something. Like she's making love to the shower.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Well, and again, more shitty music plays over. This movie is filled with horrible music.
Yeah.
And so suddenly a gloved hand throws back the shower curtain and just repeatedly stabs Bree to death. She stabs so much that her intestines fall out of her and land in the tub, but yet she manages to somehow stay standing.
Still standing.
So the person who has first billing and is dead center on the movie poster is dead within the first 5 minutes of this movie. Row opening credits, which are animated, but in a really weird way.
It's kind of strange. Yeah, it was. So it's kind of showing the characters that you're going to see in animated. Jeez, I can't even
laminated,
animated form. So.
Yeah, and it kind. I mean, at first, as soon as you see those animated credits, I can't even speak right now. It kind of takes you into a thing where, okay, you're not going to get a serious movie now, because I don't know, when I see a horror movie and it's anime like that and like cartoon style, or I'm running around like Scooby-Doo type stuff, okay, you're in for more of a lighthearted
sticky.
Yeah. So after the long credit sequence, we're taken to the summer camp, which is supposed to be the filming location for like a Biggest Loser type of reality show.
Yeah, it's a game show where a bunch of fatties lose a bunch of weight.
Yeah, so this is the second movie now where we've done like a summer camp that was a reality show at Camp Dread was.
Right.
And we meet the bald, who at first I think is the producer, but it turns out I think he's like the host of the show. But his name's Warren. And this woman named Natalie, who at first I thought was his assistant, but then I think she might be like a producer or do it all for the show. You don't really know. And we go to a motel room where dozens of like these humongous fat obese guys are just sitting around waiting for audition.
We're talking heavyweights,
biggest like gigantic, hard, like so fat they're almost hard to look at.
Yeah, we're talking 400 plus pounds as the smallest guy.
Yeah,
there's one guy that's so big in the entire movie he didn't stand.
Yes, I have that in note. Yeah, I was gonna notice.
He is so fucking big.
So let's give you a rundown. We have fat morose goth guy whose name is Dark with a C. We have the fat bearded liberal named Tim Smith, who wears a t-shirt that reads ATF should be a convenience store, not a government agency, which I thought was kind of funny. This weird guy who's either like gay or stuck in his infancy stages of development named
I got him
Gerard.
As gay. Yeah.
He turns out he's definitely gay,
weird.
but when you first see him, and he wears at first he's looking like he's wearing a pink onesie. And he's bald, but he's got this one long strand of black hair like hanging off his forehead.
Like one long braid coming out like the center of his front of his forehead that he tucks behind his ear. And he's got this weird, shitty little
lip ring.
Like mustache. It's almost like John Waters has a pencil thin mustache, but it's even thinner and like just creepier on a morbidly obese guy.
Yes, and he's got a lip ring.
Fucking weird.
And he's sucking on a lollipop the whole time.
Yeah.
From his point, I pretty much just call him Gay Buddha from here on out because he kind of looks like a gay Buddha.
Nice.
Now we also have Fat Man, the old Fat Man rapper, Eric 2-Ton Rockefeller, who looks like just a fat white version of Run DMC
with Elvis glasses.
Yes. This guy is really fucking annoying, and he's
probably the worst character.
And we have fat guy in suspenders who doesn't speak English. And that's all he is. We have fat guy in wife beater in tracksuit named Phil Philip something, who's like a Jersey Guido. And Andy Morrison, bald guy with beard, wears a camo shirt, and his friend Greg. And then there's Jeremy Landers, who's just kind of like the normal fat guy. He's just there. There's really nothing special about him. He's just there. And the last person in the room is this guy named Frederick Turnbloom, who is just doing calisthenics. Like, he's doing squats and jumping jacks.
And he's the slim. He's still a heavy guy.
He's not that,
but he's probably like 250.
Yeah.
You know, he's just overweight.
He's not nowhere near.
He does not have class 3 obesity.
Exactly. Yeah. So now we get this exterior shot of the production trailer, which isn't even a real trailer. They couldn't get a real trailer for this movie.
It's a camper.
It's just, okay, yeah, it's a camper, but it's just a Photoshop image of one. It's just a cut and paste image of a trailer with a sign that says production trailer.
You're right.
Pasted over a picture of some grass and trees. So they couldn't even get a real camper. Just take a picture of it. So inside this guy, we meet this guy named James, who Dr. James is talking to this old guy who is Dick Warlock, who is like the network head. He's like the big cheese.
Yeah, he's supposed to be the big cheese of the network for this show.
Yeah. And the older man tells him that there's a lot right on the show. After the accident with the last show that happened to the last show, they're in big financial trouble. Dr. James is like, don't worry about this. My weight loss plan is proven. They can be proud. Well, we can probe them into some trauma. It'll be fine. He's reassuring.
We're going to get them to lose weight.
Yeah. Turns out James is, again, he's some kind of doctor of some sort, and that it's Warren's show, and that Warren's going to be basically running it when the older guy's not here. So let's take some time to clarify these characters. For me, this is what I told you. We had Warren to host the show, and then the girl we saw him earlier with Natalie is like, I think she's kind of like a cameraman, a producer, something. And then we also have Sheila, the makeup lady, and some like random camera guy. So far the show, there's only one cameraman for this entire show, which is insane and would never happen.
It's just a shitty camera.
It's not even nice here. It's like a middle of the road camcorder type thing. And Natalie goes and tells the rest of the cast they're ready to start, and this is what we want you to do. She lays down the law. This takes us to the woods where Natalie is now working the one camera. So she's filming instead of the cameraman. When Warren does like the opening for the show, which is called By the Pound, and he explains what the show is. He mentions that there's a $1 million prize for whoever wins, the show. Now, this takes us to Natalie filming each cast member doing like a talking head introduction, like, hey, I'm blah, blah, blah from blah, blah, blah. And when they get to Franklin, Warren stops the shoot and gets on Franklin's case for not being fat enough. Because like I said, he's a little overweight, but he's not that big.
Yeah, and he's like, we're talking, all these motherfuckers are gigantic.
Yes.
Like, and he's, big dude. And it's like, you're not fat. What's wrong with you? Who are you? What's going on? He's like, well, I gained a little bit of weight. Like, get out of here.
Yeah, he
kick him off.
Kick him off the set completely. And he replaces him with the cameraman, Clark, who is another fat guy. So these talking head spots are being recorded in the shittiest of locations. They set up this small green screen backdrop, which is fine and all, but they put it next to the fridge, which sticks out in every shot, and the wall on the other side sticks in two. And once you have the gigantic fat guys in front, the green screen is barely even visible.
Yeah,
all you see is a fridge and a wall. It's awful. So once the introductions are shot, we skip to the cast meeting the rest of the staff and crew, where they meet Dr. James. This is where we meet the Lee R. Emery ripoff drill sergeant named Theodore Adams, also known as Coach TA, which he says stands for tear ass. And he drops the F-bomb on them, calling them faggots, which is a rarity. You don't hear many movies in 2000s.
We've mentioned it before. Not a lot of F-bombs these days.
And now we meet Stephanie Trace, who's the show's nurse, the medical person. And when Jeremy first sees her, he is love struck.
Yeah, now this is pretty funny. So, they're introducing the people, and then we get to the nurse. And the nurse is, she comes on, she's like, hi, I just got my BSN, so I guess this is my first nursing job.
Yeah.
And she's talking to all these people, and this guy, Jeremy, he just starts, we're talking like Scooby-Doo sounds, like he's like just dumbfounded. He goes into like a Dreamweaver kind of sequence when he's looking at her, and now she's topless. She's got no clothes on, and she's deep throating like a granola bar. She's like deep throating a granola bar, and it keeps cutting from her naked, topless.
Yeah.
deep throating a granola bar to him, just going, you know?
Yeah.
It's just, what the fuck is going on?
Exactly.
He seems like a little kid who is like, so he sees like a panda bear doing cartwheels or something. Yeah. He's just like, oh, it's so God, it's so awesome. And it's just her deep throating a granola bar. It's so weird.
Yeah, after his like food sucking wet daydream, we meet Arthur. And Arthur is the fitness trainer, or like, you know, he's like
this is a fitness trainer who skipped leg day.
Yeah.
I gotta tell you, you know, I mean, he's got the skinniest fucking legs ever.
And he says he was once over 400 pounds and says Dr. James's program worked for him, so it'll work for you. Now, we cut to Jeremy bumping into Stephanie. They have their little meet cute while he helps her pick up the papers and folders that she just dropped. And he helps her carry some boxes into like this shed or building, and where they get accidentally locked inside. And she tells him that she's claustrophobic and begins to have a breakdown. But Jesus, it's like gotta be the worst case of claustrophobia ever, because it's not that small of a room or building they're in.
Pretty good size shack.
Yeah, and she's like freaking out.
And it's, man, this poor motherfucker. I mean, he's sweating his balls off.
They're all, I mean,
they're so fat. They're just sweating so much. Oh, and it's something they comment also about when they're all in the trailer about how bad it smells. It's like, you got 12 400-pound men in here. It stinks. It's like, ugh, God. Jesus Christ. I can only imagine.
Yeah. So we jump to the rest of the cast. Like, then they're racing towards the finish line where TA is yelling at them to move faster. This is a race. And all the fat guys just play up the fat guy running stereotypes. Like, they, you know, limber to and fro. They can't run in a straight line. They're falling down.
They're flopping around. Their shirts are off. You see, if you are a fan of watching fat people wiggle and jiggle them around, this movie's for you.
Yeah.
Because there's lots of that.
That's all. They play off on the fat stereotypes so much throughout this movie. It's just like one big fat joke. And now we're showing a first-person POV of someone in the woods watching them run from the trees in the bush. Time passes, nighttime comes. We rejoin Jeremy and Stephanie, still locked in the building, which again is bullshit, because I would think the producers would be like, "Hey, we're missing somebody. We never look for him.
Where's the nurse? Where's Jeremy?" Yeah. And again, he's just half his shirt is soaked with sweat.
Yeah. And they're sharing childhood stories and they're bonding.
Yeah, so they're making a little love connection.
Yeah. And finally the doors open and Tim pokes his head in and he's like, "Oh, is this the outhouse? I got a shit." Yeah, and he takes us to the cabins, and all the cast members are sitting around, and they pull a prank on Sleeping Jeremy, which is the old shaving cream in the hand, tickle the nose thing. Only instead of shaving cream, they use Tim's shit. Which is fucking disgusting. Yeah. Jeremy goes outside afterwards, and he cleans up, goes outside, and we see, again, somebody's watching him from the shadows. So we got somebody lurking around him. Back in the cabin, dark, spouts out some cryptic shit. Philip sends Clark out to the back to throw out some empty liquor bottles. And this is where someone comes up from behind Clark, taps him on the shoulder. Clark spins around, gasps at what he sees, and tries to hit the person with the bottle, but fails. The killer, who's wearing like all black and a red apron.
Apron that
how
says...
can we forget? Okay, the red apron says six-pack abs and has a six-pack on it. But the kicker is the KFC chicken bucket he wears on his head with eyes holes cut out.
So he's got a KFC family-style chicken bucket.
Yeah.
With tiny eye holes cut out. Pretty fucking small
eye holes. Yeah.
Wearing it as his mask is a chicken bucket.
Yes.
That's his death mask.
That's our killer in this. A chicken bucket killer.
He's wearing an apron, and he's wearing a chicken bucket hat.
Yeah. So let that sink in. This is what we're dealing with in this movie. It's... So, he stabs Clark, kills him, and then just puts a tarp over his body, but not covered up.
Clark's hand, it's like they show his hand fall. He's bleeding and is bleeding into a bottle.
Yeah, they do.
So you see blood filling up in this bottle.
So we join up with Jeremy, who's sitting alone outside writing poetry because he's such a heartfelt, wonderful guy.
Tender, fat fuck.
Yeah. Stephanie shows up. Again, they talk and continue to bond and blah, 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 blah. They share their life's problems. She tries to make him feel better about telling a story about her asshole ex, and it's just more boring gibberish. Eventually they go separate ways. Morning comes. The next day the cast is gathered for some more filming. They're getting back to the show. They're all standing. Again, this is where it first knows that Philip again is sitting down. And we comment on this. He sits down throughout the entire movie in a cheap folding chair. And now like I said, this is an ongoing thing. He's never seen standing, and I don't know if this is just like a gag you're doing with his character, or if the guy is just so fucking fat that he physically cannot stand up long enough to shoot these scenes.
It's because he's that fucking big. He's huge.
Yeah, I kind of think it's the latter
huge.
Too. I'm surprised.
I think he's the biggest.
No, he's easily the biggest.
He's biggest. Yeah, he's gotta be 600 pounds
easily.
Yeah.
So, and he's also the only one not wearing the matching camp or show T-shirt that everybody else has.
Tough guy moment with that.
Yeah, and because Warren shows up asking where Clark is, says they haven't seen him, and that, maybe he just went home. And now this is where Warren gets on Philip's case about not wearing the shirt, but Philip goes all like Jersey Guido,
kind of gangster, kind of
mafia,
Soprano-esque.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, I don't wear T-shirts. He pulls the guy in by his collar, and he's like holding him nose. I don't wear T-shirts. Yeah. And he's like, maybe we can make an exception. He goes, I'm glad we can reach an agreement upon that. Kind of,
exactly
gangster-esque. Yeah.
If I was that guy, I'd be wearing T-shirts because he wears a wife beater and a tracksuit. And I think a shirt would be a lot more flattering on him than
whatever's comfortable, man. When you're that fucking fat, whatever's comfortable, I guess, right?
Yeah, I guess.
I think I'd be wearing a muumuu myself.
Yeah. So TA enters, tells them that today's activity is hiking, and they're to walk up the hilly trails, and if they stop, they're out. If they pause, they're out, and whoever makes it the furthest wins the challenge. So, fat hillbilly Andy, he trips Jeremy, which causes him just to start bleeding profusely. He just falls on the ground and just starts bleeding. Yeah. Like, what happened? What is making his leg bleed?
Jeremy, throughout this whole movie, just gets his ass handed to him by everyone else. Everyone just bullies the shit out of him.
Boy,
and this guy, he's a big dude. He's 300 plus pounds. He's falling over constantly. He's falling over, getting tripped.
He's the small one of the group. He's the runt of the cat.
He's flopping around all over the place. This guy has got to fall over at least in 10 minutes. Every scene, in 10 minutes, he falls over in some way, shape, or form.
It's pretty much true. His leg's gushing blood. Stephanie pops up out of nowhere to bandage him up. And she's like, it's fine, it'll be fine. And she's reading about, she says, I read about this in a textbook once. And she pulls out this little first aid flip book and starts flipping through the pages. I'm like, you're supposed to be a nurse.
She just graduated.
Which means it should be fresh in her head. Like, if this is your nurse, and I just have a cut on my leg or something like that, and she has to pull out a flip book to figure that out. I'm like, holy shit,
yeah,
doomed.
Not only that, she was a BSN, so she has a bachelor's, which is the same degree I have. Yeah. So this bitch should know what's going on.
Exactly. And it should be fresh in her head, not I have to reference this little book that came with the first. It's not even like a real medical textbook. It's just this little book that came with the first aid kit.
But Marshall, she's nervous. It's her man. It's her man. She's love struck. Her man's hurt.
Ugh. Anyway, fine.
Her 300 plus pound man is hurt.
So we cut to Tim, who tells Hillbilly and Gay Booty, screw this challenge, I have to go take a shit. So this guy has to shit a lot in this movie.
That's like his shtick.
That's his thing, is shitting.
Giant beard and pooping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he goes off by himself to drop a
this guy also, he's big, but he's like tall. He's not that fat, really.
Yeah, he's really, he's not as, again,
he's just like a big guy.
Big.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not as fat as the other ones who are just
He's very
huge.
tall. He's got a gut, but I mean,
I agree with you. I agree totally. So he's squatting over trying to shit when
which they show full ass.
Yeah, and so Chicken Bucket Killer pops out from behind a tree. The two of them, quote unquote, fight for a bit.
Pretty bad fight
which
scene.
Is really more like the killer playing Matador with Tim.
And did you see the killer's weapon?
Yeah, he pulls out a large clearly plastic machete from his apron, which is just the fake things you can buy at a Walgreens around Halloween time.
How fucking sad is that?
It's pathetic. And this isn't the first time we've seen a movie that has these. We saw these in, I want to say it was Night of the Dead.
Yeah.
It was the Cleaver version, I think. We saw this in, there was another movie where they had one of these plastic machetes in it too. It's like, Jesus, people.
Yeah, what the fuck, guys? Yeah. Come on.
I mean, they're fine for kids, at Halloween, but if you're going to be in a movie, plastic never looks like metal. It doesn't play.
It's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah. So
if you have to cut to the part where you're hitting them with plastic, fine. But when you're holding it and you're wielding it,
exactly,
use a fucking real thing.
Exactly. Just change it out. Cut, change it out, and keep going. It's not that hard. So Tim picks up this log, they face off, and at this point, Spanish-speaking Fatty is watching them from behind a tree.
Josue.
Whatever his name is.
It's because I met a guy named Josue.
Oh, okay.
And I used to go, Josue this way, Josue that way. He thought it was funny the first time. After the 12th, not so much.
Not so much. So after more abysmal fighting, the killer hits Tim with at least...
I think he kicked him or
hits him
something.
like twice with the machete, but there's no blood because it's fucking
Because it's plastic.
The killer gives Tim this really pathetic kick to the chest, which sends Tim reeling onto the pointed end of a large log, which impales Tim through the chest.
All the way through.
Killing him all the way through. Now, the killer hears the sounds of twigs snapping and looks over to see Josue, who throws up his hands and he just takes off running into the woods. And that's it.
I mean.
Yeah. This takes us back to Warren, who's telling the camera that Philip has won amnesty for the hiking challenge. So after cameras are off, it turns out that Philip just bribed some of the others to let him win. So that's his thing. Like, he just dishes out all this money to people to like let him win these things. So Warren, Dr. James, and Stephen, they're talking about this missing cast member now. The Clark has gone missing now. I guess Josue is gone. And we cut to the fake green screen production trailer again, where the sounds of a girl moaning. And inside, we see Warren fucking the chubby makeup girl, doggy style, bent over a counter. He's smoking like his vape stick, and just going through like his text messages on his phone when he's and like pulling her hair. He's just totally like not into it. You can tell he's like, yeah,
pretty
whatever.
sweet.
And in walks Natalie, Natalie just walks in, and Warren's like, oh, hold on a second. He just keeps finishing. He finishes, smacks her on the ass, and sends the girl away. And Warren just stands there butt naked with a tie on while talking to Natalie about finding the missing people. Natalie gives him a shit for having a small dick. And a quick personal side note.
This is very Roman-esque, you know?
Yeah, it really is. A quick side note on this. Now, the acting isn't that great in this movie, but it's not bad for what you get. But I actually do like the girl who plays Natalie. I think did a really good job. Some of her scenes I think are really funny, and her time with her lines I think are actually pretty good, especially in this scene. More time passes, and we get the montage of the cast working out. And again, Philip's in a chair, sitting there while everybody else is doing the thing. And the montage basically consists of them kicking a soccer ball around in a very small circle, rolling around and bouncing on a trampoline, attempting to play football, 2 tons smoking weed and getting pelted with balls every time he turns around. And just lots of shots of them falling down and rolling around the ground.
Just being wacky and fat and just falling around. I'm just falling down. Oh, I'm so look at my belly. The camera shakes. Whoa.
Jiggle.
Jiggle.
So after the montage, Warren and Natalie, they're talking, and up pulls a black Mustang convertible, and getting out of the car is Mr. Head himself, Al Snow.
Just pulls up, slams on the brake, and he gets out, and Al fucking Snow comes out.
He looks in great shape for his age.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of other retired wrestlers, and even just pro athletes, once they're done, a lot of times
they just let it go.
It happens. Mm-hmm. But no, Al Snow looks incredible in this movie.
He really does. He actually almost looks better. I
think so too.
Yeah,
I thought he looked more defined, bigger than he was when he was wrestling. Yeah. But it also could be the fact that in this time we're seeing him next to like normal people and not other wrestlers, so he looks bigger by. But
he looks good.
Big, yeah, he's good. So Warren introduces Al Snow as Ritz, one of the best private security men in the business. So Ritz is there, I guess, to crack down on the people going missing and find out what's going on. So he encounters 2-ton, dark, and gay Buddha. He tells them that why he's here is to keep all the fatties in line and stop anyone from running away anymore. And during the scene, every one of Al Snow's pockets has like a snack bar sticking out.
Like he's got Nutter Butters and Honey Buns.
Nutty Bars and Honey Buns,
like
etc.
Snickers and stuff sticking out everywhere.
Which he uses to taunt the fatties.
Yeah, he's just like, I work out. I can eat whatever I want. I'm having little orgasms in my mouth.
Yeah.
And the scene had potential, because Al Snow, he did good on the promos. He did good. I just felt like this fell flat.
Really?
Like
I was entertained by this thing because I'm comparing it in contrast with the rest of the movie. I'm like, I thought it was funny. I thought Al Snow kind of brought a good energy. I liked it, what he did in this movie.
I'm not saying it was bad. I just think it could have been better because I know what Al Snow can do. I've seen him cut promos. I've seen him work the mic. I've seen him interact with like Mick Foley and stuff. He's got pretty good comedic timing and pretty good delivery. I don't know if it was the guys he was working with or what, but it just did not. it wasn't as good as I wanted it to be.
You're right too, but I could see it could have been better. I agree, but this whole movie could have been better. I'm just saying, but I think for what it was, I enjoy Al Snow in this movie. I think he does a pretty good job. So we cut to Arthur giving the cast a class in nutrition. And he starts sniffing the air like a bloodhound.
Yeah, so all the fat guys are sitting around a table, and he's talking to them, and he starts going around sniffing each and every single one of them.
And he says, there's a cheater in the group, and I believe I found him. And then he pulls up the shirt of bald, bearded hillbilly Andy, grabs him by his man tit.
Grabs him by the titties.
Lifts up the titties.
Lifts up his titties, and he's got Nutter Butters sandwiched underneath the fat folds on his tits.
The Nutty Bars. But
oh, my God. It's so gross.
And they're just smeared all over.
Oh, it's so gross. And, dude, it's also, did you notice the gigantic surgical scar on this guy?
Yeah.
Woo!
So Andy starts to cry at this, and Arthur gives him a hug.
As he pulls the Nutter Butters out from underneath his tits.
Yeah. He says, you don't need this. You can be better than this. All right, now everybody else, give up the rest of your security candy.
So it's almost like that's those scenes in like action movies when they're like going into a club. It's like, you got to take out all your weapons before you go in.
Yeah.
People are like taking out Snickers from inside their pants, from their shoe.
I mean, they
have all kinds of hiding spots
out of their underwear.
Yeah, it's like their secret sidearm is really their secret candy stash.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is. Nighttime comes, and the camera follows a path of candy wrappers and chips to the bathroom, where we find Arthur, who's making himself throw up because he's eating all of it.
So this is the guy, again, Arthur used to be 400 pounds, so he's binging and purging. Yes. He's shoving all this food in his mouth, and he's barfing it all back up.
Yeah, he shoves a Nutty Bar in his mouth, and then he just starts kind of crying to himself, and he turns on the water. Oh, I'm sorry, I totally missed that. He stands up, turns to leave, but as soon as he turns, he gets attacked by the killer, who hits him over the head with the end of like one of those detachable shower heads, the shower hose. He then takes the end of the shower head, shoves it into Arthur's mouth, turns on the water. Arthur's belly starts expanding from all the water that's being forced into him, and it expands until it ruptures. His intestines and guts pop out, and he dies in the shower.
Boo.
Yeah. It's kind of a shitty effect, dude. It does not look really good. More time passes again, and we're taking to Stephanie and Jeremy, who are still hanging out, and they're talking on some bench. Jeremy tries to pull the old subtle arm around the girl's shoulder maneuver, which
she's into it.
She actually works for him because
she likes it. She snuggles up to him, and they go in for an incredibly awkward kiss.
Very awkward kiss, right on my nose. And we see again someone's watching them from the shadows. Al Snow shows up, interrupting them, telling them that it's almost 10 o'clock, time for lockdown. Jeremy leaves. Now, Rich Snow tries to put the moves on Stephanie, but she's like, no, she walks off. And now, not caring or giving a shit about this, Al Snow just like, it's good to be the rich man. Everything goes better on a Ritz. I'm like, the way you said it, it made me laugh.
I kind of like that.
I like that too.
Yeah.
And inside, Jeremy's sitting at a table. Stephanie enters because she's all pissed off at him for like leaving.
The fuck?
Because she left him alone with Al Snow, so she's all mad.
He's known this girl for 2 days.
Yeah.
And he's just now putting the moves on him. Huge, intimidating man comes by. He's on a show, a competition, mind you. He's security. He says, you got to go, he's trying to win $1 million.
Yeah.
All right. You got to go. It's lockdown. Okay. She's fucking staff.
Yeah.
She works there. Right off the bat, he's already on fucking thin ice.
I'm pretty sure there'd be some kind of written contract or written agreement that establishes that before he came with the cast.
Right. He's on thin ice already. So you know what? I don't blame him. He's like, okay, gotta go. Later, you guys are both staff. Fine. He leaves. She comes in, starts bitching at him. How dare you leave me with that guy?
You don't know who he is.
You don't know. I thought you were a man. Bitch, you know me 2 days. I'm trying to win $1 million. Fuck you.
I thought the exact same thing. So, she yells out, she storms off, and this takes us to Rich. So again, is talking to himself about how awesome he is, and which again I just enjoy. And the killer comes up from behind him and hits Rich over the head with a wrench,
which just pisses him off.
Yeah, which Rich, who's still being awesome, recovers. Says, what the hell is wrong with you, and what the hell is on your head, referring to the chicken bucket.
Snatches the wrench out of his hand and goes, give me that.
Give me that. And says, you fucked up now, fat boy. Rich chases after the killer, who starts throwing all of Rich's snack cakes and candy at Rich. Rich is like, really? Come on. And the killer pulls out again that plastic machete from his apron. And if he had the machete the whole time, why not just use that first? He could have killed Rich right immediately with one good thrust or stab into the skull, dead. But no. So the two of them fight. Rich pretty much dominates this fight until the killer lands a lucky blow, hitting Rich on the head with the butt of the machete. And this is what knocks him out, which, again, I call bullshit on so many things in this movie, this being one of them, because if anything was going to knock that man out, it would have been the blow to the back of the head with the giant metal wrench, not the tiny butt of a machete.
I knew that sigh was coming. I just saw it. It's like, here it comes.
So, yeah, the love tap from the machete knocks him out. And it cuts away to the killer raising Ritz up off the ground. He's tied up in some kind of harness attached to a rope, and he hangs him a few inches off the ground. Where he goes in and just stabs him a bunch of times in the stomach and pulls out some of his intestines and just walks away, leaves him hanging there.
Ritz is dead.
Which, by the way, nobody ever finds this guy's body throughout this movie. And he's like out in the middle of a field, like he's plainly visible.
There's a lot of issues with the killings of this movie because people get killed and you never see the bodies get stashed, never see them get put anywhere.
Like Clark, okay, he covered him up with a tarp. And I'm like, okay, well that's something. And then Arthur, okay, he left him in his
woods.
No, Arthur was killed in his shower.
Oh,
so
that's
he left
right.
him in his shower, but okay, if that's his personal private cabin, he left him in the shower. Maybe people aren't going to go in there because
Fatboy Tim was left in the woods.
But Fatboy Tim was left in the woods.
Okay.
But yeah, this one out in the woods, who knows where? But this one's like right dead center, middle of the camp, hanging from a swing set or something.
Yeah, he's suspended.
Yeah. Nobody ever finds him. So we go to Warren and Natalie. They're talking, they're arguing about everything that's happened, and Warren's like, I think Rich just took the money and ran because he's now missing. So after this short scene, Jeremy and Greg are sitting around talking. Jeremy's telling him how much he loves Stephanie. Greg just don't give a shit. And in comes Natalie, and Greg just hits on her. Now, Greg, at times, can be kind of humorous, but sometimes can also be annoying. For a guy his size, he is filled with confidence. He is, like, talking games, like, I'm going to smack that ass. I'm going to be deep inside you, and blah, blah, blah. I know you want this. And Natalie's like, fuck you, don't talk to me, you're disgusting.
It's an ongoing gag. It's an ongoing thing. Throughout the whole movie, that's been kind of ongoing. Like, he's overly confident, bizarrely confident, you know.
Yeah, and he's like 500 pounds.
And she's just like, fuck off.
Yeah. And again, speaking of Natalie, like, at this point, I started like, okay, I'm really enjoying her as for an indie actor. I looked her up and she has like hardly anything to her credit on IMDb. I think she was one of the people that's in that hospital movie. But I was kind of surprised, like, of all the people, her acting's not that bad compared to the others. Like, I thought she should have been in more stuff.
I was wondering, just by looking at her, and also with Al Snow's connection, if she was maybe an indie wrestler, because she's kind of thick, strong, like thick, thick, like strong.
Yeah,
like,
I know that's a good point.
Yeah.
But when I read nothing about that on the IMDb, so doesn't say she might not have been. But
she was wearing a CrossFit shirt too. She's like advertising. It's like she's almost doing subliminal advertising for some CrossFit company too.
Exactly. So she walks off as Andy approaches and tells Greg that he really needs to talk to him. Then he just smacks Jeremy in the face and walks away with Greg.
Which I thought was funny.
It was kind of funny. He's like, hey, I need to talk to you. Smack.
And
Let's
then,
go.
Yeah, and then Greg smacks him too.
Yeah. So the two of them, they walk off and talk. And Andy tells Greg that he's having issues with sleepwalking, bad dreams, and that he's pretty sure the missing people have been murdered. And Greg says, hey, chill out. Don't worry about it. And this is where Dr. James comes in, tells him that he knows what they've done, referring to. And Andy's like, oh my God, I killed somebody. And he's just talking about them bullying Jeremy, and it's stupid. So in comes who I guess is supposed to be at this point the local sheriff or maybe a park. It does turn out he's a park ranger. At the time, I was like, is this guy supposed to be sheriff? But he's an old man who just wears a baggy, untucked beige shirt with a badge on it, khaki pants, and like a hat. And that's like the sloppiest authority figure I've ever seen in my life.
Well, it kind of goes with the character, because the character is, everyone's saying he's a drunk. He's a horrible, miserable old drunk.
Yeah, I guess that's true, but yeah, all right, I guess like that side. And he's like, you're all gonna die. And he pulls out a gun from his waistline because he doesn't even have a holster for his gun. He pulls it out of his pants. tells them that he's trying to save them. And in comes Warren, tells the man to get off his set or he'll call the police. He's like, I am the police. He's like, no, you're a ranger. Now get out of here.
Yeah.
So he walks off. Everyone leaves to go film some more stuff for the show. Natalie's knocking on Arthur's cabin, his door, and someone's watching her as she enters the cabin. And inside, she gags at the awful smell. She finds a trail of candy wrappers that leads her to the dead body in the shower. Naturally, she freaks out, screams. We cut to TA, who's making the cast chase and catch a chicken as their next challenge.
And this is pretty brutal. Like, when you think of chasing a chicken, you think of Rocky. Yeah. You think of that scene in Rocky when Mickey's like, you gotta be like grease lightning, kid. You gotta be fast. And he's having Rocky chase the chicken and catch him, to build on his speed and cutting and agility. Yeah. And this chicken's not moving. And these fat fucks are just like, this chicken is just kind of standing there, and they're like, we're acting like we're trying to chase the chicken, but the chicken's not working with them. The chicken's just standing there going, quit poking me. Yeah. It's the most domesticated chicken.
And again, it goes slapstick at this point because the fat guys are running.
They're
bumping
running into each other,
falling
bellies
down.
smacking. Yeah.
And again, Philip just sits in the chair. Natalie runs up to Warren, tells him about finding Arthur's dead body. She wants to call the cops. He says no. Have Stephanie look at him to make sure he's really dead. Two-Ton catches the chicken by just bending over and picking it up because it's not moving.
Very domesticated.
And as soon as he does, Philip, again, calls him over to make a deal with him, and Two-Ton just hands the chicken over. He's like, all right, here you go. Here's the chicken. You win. Natalie walks away. Greg slaps her ass. She just flips the shit on. She's like, she curses him out. She is not in the mood. She's not having that. Warren tells Tia that the situation needs his attention later tonight after everyone is asleep. So I think they make it kind of a reference to that TA is going to chop up and hide the remains of Arthur's body. That's kind of like what I got from this. Like, it needs your discreet attention. You need to move this or remove it, something like that. So I'm like, okay, he's going to dispose of the body. So time passes. Dark now is sitting up against a tree eating, and he looks up and says, we all wear masks. And then the killer just slashes a blade across his throat. He dies. That's it. He's dead.
And it's making that weird kind of sound effect.
Yeah, I think it was. Now we cut to the cast sitting in a room alone, along with Dr. James and Stephanie. James says that due to a production problem, he and Stephanie will be their hosts for the evening. And since we haven't mentioned it yet, the cabin looks like it belongs to a serial killer. It's messy. It's got shitty furniture. The room has like random graffiti written on the walls. And the walls are also covering like just really odd things like weird posters, pictures. There's paper flyers for God knows what. There's antlers and hats. And there's dirty rags that hang from the walls. Like where the wall and the ceiling meet. Like there's just rags hanging down. And there's an old like shop vac, wet dry vac that's in the corner underneath the TV. And black trash bags hang over the windows. And again, like there's no way a network would allow a show to be filmed in this location. They would have like cleaned it up. They don't want this would be never happen. So Dr. James talks about the challenges and that on average they've lost 7.6% of their starting body weight, which again I call bullshit because you never want you never want to see them get weighed in or doing anything.
Doesn't matter.
Meanwhile, Stephanie's trying to figure out how to work the camera, which is not that hard to figure out. You just push the fucking record button because this is a damn camcorder. Oh God. He goes on to say that because of this that they've actually lost some weight, they will be rewarded, but they have to make the right choice. But if they will make the right choice, we'll find out.
And I kind of like this because you see this on The Biggest Loser sometimes. It's like
I don't really watch it, so I don't.
On the show, The Biggest Loser is like you won immunity. You can have a pizza, or you can keep going the way you're going, and possibly you won't be penalized if you eat this food. You get an extra 2 pounds on your way in. So they try and do temptations, and this is kind of one of those temptations.
Well, then that's basically what it is because this is option 1 is a trip to Bottomless Ray's world-renowned buffet with no dietary restrictions. Now, Bottomless Ray is played by Sean C. Phillips, who he has 108 credits to his name, all super low-budget horror movies. But for us and for all you Moongans out there, he played the super fat security guard in Bloody Mary 3D.
Yes, he played the kind of
dumbass childlike security guard.
The sexless one. We couldn't identify if it was a man or a woman. We couldn't tell if this was what is this? Is this an asexual being? Is this a hermaphrodite? We couldn't tell. However, he looked a little thinner.
He is.
He looked a little thinner, and he was definitely more of a man.
If you look at his IMDb page, they've updated his picture because he's definitely thinned out in the face now than what he was in Bloody Mary.
Oh, Bloody Mary, he was a jumbo. Oh, my God.
He should have been a cast member.
Well, he was.
Technically, he was a cast member, but he should have been in the show part. Anyway, so Dr. James says if they don't want that and they want to maintain their good effort and momentum, there's an altering ward. And he gestures to the room to his right, and in walks 4 skinny, pretty girls.
It's kind of skanky.
Yeah, and he tells them that if they resist the urge to gorge themselves, they will spend the night on the town with 10 of the most beautiful girls they have ever seen.
4 of which are right here.
I'm like, well, yeah, exactly. First of all, there's only 4 girls. Where are the other 6? And, like, second, these girls are cute, yes, but they are nowhere near, like, what would be the top 10 most beautiful girls ever.
Dude, they're skanky. They're skanky as all fucking get out. So, they're just thin. They're just skanky thins. And my favorite is the fat Buddha.
Yeah,
I love it. He just looks at the girls and goes, no. Where's the food?
Yeah.
Like, that's a good line.
Exactly.
I like that a lot.
He chooses the food.
He fucking nailed it. That was, like, one of the best moments of the movie right there. I love that part.
So we cut to this, again, a Photoshop picture of a bar that's just simply called Dive Bar. And inside, Two-Ton has 2 of these girls grinding up against him, 1 on each leg.
Hands full of ass.
Yeah, and the rest are like sitting in a bar. Music's plays over. The scene is just god awful.
Can we talk about Two-Tone or for whatever?
Two-Ton? Yeah, of course we can.
Okay, Two-Ton is like an older white guy.
He's like in his 70s.
He's got at least in his 50s or 60s, and he's an older white guy acting like a black guy.
Yeah.
Why didn't they just get a black guy? Why didn't they just have a fat
black guy? Yeah.
There's plenty of fat black brothers out there who could be in this. It's all white except for Josue and Tim. He's miscellaneous. I don't know what he is. He looks more like Aborigine than anything else. But it's
the
like
beard does make
I don't know what he look. I don't know what he is. He's just other. But why don't you just get a fat black dude? I was kind of pissed that they chose this fucking ridiculous old white man to play funny. This hip hop kind of thing.
I thought like, that would be hilarious if this old white guy who's a rapper who dresses in like Flavor Flav, got chains and giant rings, and
it was fucking horrible.
Fedoras,
smoking weed, and Jesus. Well, I guess you're not stereotyping then. Old fat white dudes can act like brothers and smoke weed too.
Yeah,
Jesus.
Yeah, I agree. I thought it was pretty bad. I thought it was a ridiculous choice as well.
You're hitting every other stereotype. Just fucking go for it.
So, during the scene, there's this really shitty rap song that's played that you can tell was specifically written just for this.
It's about eating food.
It's about eating food, it's about the movie. It's really, and it's awful. Greg's sitting at the end of the bar while this pretty blonde girl is just talking to him.
And he's the stereotypical talk. She's like, I like to go to the mall and I like to do shopping, and then I'm just going to go do this, and I like this kind of car. And I used to date this guy who drove this car, but he was kind of a mean guy and didn't like to talk a whole lot. But his cousin, he was, it's just blah, 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 blah.
Exactly. That's what, and he's not paying attention to her at all. But again, I call bullshit on this as well because I'm sorry, there's no way a guy who looks like that would be so distant and disinterested in a pretty girl like her. Talking to him, no matter what she was rambling on about.
But this guy has that weirdo confidence, so he's just like, he thinks he's so cool, so good. Maybe. I didn't dismiss it.
I don't know. I just think this guy would be eating every word she's saying up, and just be happy that girl is even talking to him.
I wouldn't. And good thing he wasn't either, because goddamn, it's annoying.
So I will say that whoever this girl is, that's playing this part, this talkative blonde, I think she does a really fucking good job with her lines because she just rams on. And it's like just a long monologue, which she does really fast. She
nails
really
her
good
part.
Job.
For the part she was given, she nailed it because even during that scene, I was getting fucking annoyed. Yeah. I'm like, Jesus Christ,
at first,
stop
like,
talking.
I'm annoyed, but then I started really getting, I was like, man, how long is she going to go? I'm like, I started respecting, like, she memorized all this. Like, this is impressive. Like, I just started looking at it from that point of view. So she ends the monologue with saying, but you know what I really love? Giving head. And this causes Greg to do a spit take. He apologizes for spitting on her. And he's like, hey, well, you want to do this head thing? And she's like, no, I'm going to go clean up. And as she walks away, she says, I'm usually the one doing the spitting. So that's the big joke line there. Meanwhile, Philip is once again sitting by the pool table where a black-haired woman with arm tattoos approaches him, introduces herself as Alexis. He flirts with her.
Yeah, he says... Well, this is the funny thing, because he goes, oh, you're one of the party girls from the network, right? And she goes, I don't know what you're talking about. oh, the network we're on this game show. Network hired a bunch of good-looking ladies. You're part of the group, right? And she goes, no, but I guess that explains why there's cameras around.
There are no fucking cameras.
So she's just an individual person.
Yeah.
She is just
who says
she is hot to trot for this man who physically cannot stand.
Exactly. But she loves a big man with confidence. And again, bullshit, because I was like, this girl's got to be a fucking hooker. There's no way a girl like that would pick this guy up in a shitty ass bar like this.
Unless she's a chubby chaser.
And so the two of them.
And if she is a chubby chaser, she hit the fucking jackpot.
Yeah. So the cut to the two of them alone. And what at first I thought it was like a back room of the bar, but no, I guess they went to her house.
It's like a hotel room or something, or her house.
I think it's like her house.
I couldn't quite figure it out either.
And they're kissing, and he stops her and tells her that the whole reason he's on this show is because his doctor told him that he's not fit enough for sexual activity. Because no shit, you're not fit enough to even stand up, apparently. So Lexa says, "Don't worry about it. I got you covered," and pulls out a portable defibrillator from her purse.
In which she says,
"Are you fucking kidding me?
I think I'm in love with you."
Seriously, who carries a portable defibrillator in their purse? And again, she has to have a serious fat man fetish if she carries one with her at all times.
She carries an AED with her all the time.
God damn it. Back at the camp, Stephanie and Jeremy are sitting at a kitchen table, which, again, I thought it was a camp, but it's not the camp. They're at the buffet.
Yeah, they went to the buffet. The Fat Boy buffet place.
Yeah, and
where they have over 30 different types of shrimp.
Which I thought it was the cabin because when they do the scene change, they show you the exterior of the cabin. But then they're in the buffet. So they can't even get that right. Gabe Boone is sitting next to Jeremy, but instead of eating a plate of food, he just apparently grabbed like the whole metal buffet tray and just eating out straight out of the tray. Now we go back to Phil and Alexis, who they're and they're fucking on the floor.
Yeah, so he's laying on the floor, with he's stripped down, she's naked, she's riding him with her titties bouncing. And it's an awkward riding scene because his stomach is so big.
Yeah,
it's got to stand like 3-4 feet off the ground.
Oh,
and so she's kind of like riding the sides of his stomach, I guess where his wiener would be.
Yeah. It almost looks like one of those girls who's riding like one of the mechanical balls and trying to hold on. And it's just like she can't really get a grip.
Just the anatomy of the whole thing is tough to figure out because he's so big.
And he's so big that he looks like he's being about to be smothered with his own fat. Because he's laying on his back and his fat's like almost like smothering him in his face.
And working in hospitals, that is a concern. When people are that big, when they lay down flat, that's a no-no. They have to have the head of their bed up at least 30 degrees so they don't get smothered by their fucking fat.
Thank you for saying that. And like I said, she can barely even stay on top of this guy. And even though there's the sheep that's awkwardly, weirdly placed around them, their lower half, you can clearly see that she's still wearing her underwear. But we do at least see her tits, which are pretty niceness.
Agreed.
They're nice. She orgasms. She finishes. Phil's like, "Oh, are you finished? Hell, I'm not even finished yet." And she replies by saying, "Honey, I'm nowhere near done with you yet. Give me that turkey leg out of my purse." What the fuck?
So she's definitely a chubby chaser.
She carries a defibrillator and a turkey leg with her at all time because she has an obese man fetish.
To which she pulls out and says, "Take a bite of it." And he's eating it.
Eat it.
While she's back to grinding on him, moaning obscenely while he's devouring a turkey leg. Bits of turkey flesh
all
over his chest, to which she climbs up on top of him, starts licking and eating the leftover turkey bits off.
But after she reaches in and takes a bite of the turkey while it's in her. So they eat the turkey leg together.
The whole scene's disgusting.
It is.
It's fucking gross.
Yeah, so she starts, and his ginormous chest and stomach is covered in food crumbs, which, you just said she eats.
So she finishes up, and he's laying there in ecstasy.
Yeah, he's like, "I'll be right back." She gets up, walks into the bathroom where she cleans herself. And to do this, she takes a damp washcloth, wipes down her vag, then sniffs the washcloth, and is like,
shrugs her shoulders,
and then wipes her face off with it.
Pretty gross.
She heads back to the bedroom, where she finds Philip dead on the floor with a turkey leg bone stuffed down his throat.
With the bone stuffed down his throat.
The chicken bucket killer comes out of nowhere from behind her.
There's also a gash across his stomach.
I was going to ask about that, because I want to talk about it in 1 second. Because, fuck it, we'll talk about it. Yeah, they show his stomach, and there's like this red streak going across it, which at first, if that's supposed to be blood, it doesn't look like...
It looks dried and coagulated.
It looks, or like...
Looks like shit.
Because let's talk about pie. At first, I'm like, is that pie? Was there a scene cut out? Was like cherry pie or something like that? Because this is like, I hate to see what you do with pie. And anyway, so the killer grabs her head, slams her down into Philip's incredibly fat stomach. And again, that's where I don't know if it's cut open or just left over like smeared food, but her face is covered in a red goo, which could be blood, could be pie filling. I don't know. It doesn't really matter because either way, she's killed by being smothered in his fat.
Yeah.
That's how she dies. Oh, that's
pretty bad.
It's fucking awful. Could you imagine being smothered to death in somebody's fat?
That would be pretty gross.
That's a horrible way to go.
That'd be a pretty bad way to go.
So, anyway, a quick note on the girl who played Alexis. Her name is Amy Boyatt, Boyatt, was also in a movie called Kill Granny Kill with Kayla Perkins.
Wow.
Yeah. So now we go back to camp where we see Andy sleeping. He wakes up after having a nightmare, goes outside to get some fresh air. And this is where he picks up the bottle that has been filled with Clark's blood and takes a drink out of it thinking it's liquor. Which, again, hold on a sec.
He thinks it's like he says he thinks it's Bloody Mary mix. You know,
I
so
still call bullshit.
Just let it slide. Let it slide.
I don't want
He thinks
to.
it's Bloody Mary mix.
I don't want to. I don't want to. But, all right, fine. So after drinking it, yeah, he's like, oh, that's kind of salty, even for Bloody Mary mix. And he takes another swig of it. He glances over and sees Clark's hand sticking out from underneath the tarp. And he pulls the tarp back, finds the body, flips out for drinking the blood, goes back inside to get Greg.
I do like his little flip out scene. I thought that was kind of funny.
You enjoyed that one?
Yeah.
The first time I watched this movie, I thought, like, God, this is stupid. But then when I was watching it the second time, I was like, okay, you know what?
It has its
moments.
moments.
It has its moment. It's not that bad. So Andy and Greg discuss what they should do, and Greg tells them that they can't call the cops because Andy's fingerprints are all over the crime scene now. He goes on to say that since he's been dead here for a while anyway and nobody's noticed him, we can just re-hide the body and wait it out. So that's what they do. They hide it in the laundry room or the laundry somewhere. The next morning, everyone is gathered around the cabin. The cast is eating while Dr. James tells Warren that they can't get Natalie to come out of the room because she's so freaked out. Two-Ton leaves for the kitchen to go get more food because that's what he needs because the oatmeal is not good enough for him.
He's got these bad munchies and this oatmeal just ain't cutting it.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And he finds a fresh funnel cake sitting right there on the counter, all hot and
he seems so, I know what this is.
Yeah.
This is funnel cake. No shit, asshole.
But instead of taking the funnel cake and just eating
instead
it,
of taking a made funnel cake that's
he
ready to
decides
go,
to make his own.
Hey.
So he starts pointing back.
Hey, fresh is best, man. Fresh is best, Marshall.
Pretty fresh.
It did, but hey, you got to have the freshest of the fresh, I guess.
So the cure comes up behind him, grabs Two-Ton, and shoves his face into the bowl of batter, pulls it out, then shoves the battered covered face into the boiling pot of frying oil. Two-Ton falls down the floor.
Fried face.
And for good measure, the killer flicks some powdered sugar onto Two-Ton's deep fried face and leaves.
So, mind you, this death
happened 6 feet from the brothers.
from a room full of people, just in the next room.
Yeah.
Just in the next room.
Nobody knows.
Nothing.
Nobody sees it. There's not even a door to the kitchen. It's
no. You can actually
door.
just lean over and see.
Yeah.
And watch it. What the fuck?
Exactly. Nobody hears the sizzling. Nothing.
Screaming, muffling, struggling.
Yeah.
300-pound man struggling around. Yeah, you're gonna fucking hear something. God damn it.
So, oh god. So yeah, in Natalie's cabin, Stephanie shows up to talk to her and trying to cover her. And Natalie tells her that she thinks everyone's being murdered. And says, like, well, I don't think so. Arthur could have been killed by wolves. We are in the woods. Like, what? And anyway, nothing fucking happens here. We're moving on. The next show challenge is with TA, and which is focused, he says, on strength and endurance, but is really just an excuse to put fat guys trying to ride tiny kids' bikes.
Now, I mean, I couldn't. There's no way, and a normal adult could ride these bicycles. No. And they have these 400-pound men.
I mean, these are bikes for like 5-year-olds. Like,
yeah, it's
like
pretty
the
stupid.
ones that go from like big wheel tricycle to your first bike. They're that small.
Tyke's first bike.
Yeah, Tyke's first. Yeah. And again, I don't know how that's supposed to be strength, endurance. Maybe I don't know. It's bullshit. And there's only 3 people here for a challenge.
That's all that's left.
Gay Buddha, Andy, and Greg. First of all, Jeremy's still around, but he's not even there. It's like,
well, he's
where
injured,
is he?
supposedly.
And we also haven't seen the Spanish-speaking guy since he ran off into the woods.
Josue.
I mean, there's no death scene for him. He's just gone. And also, I'm pretty sure that the network people would have shut this shit down a long time ago. Yeah. And even TA doesn't seem to know that out of the 10 cast members that started, there's only 3 left. And it's not there have been any eliminations to the show. They haven't done any of that shit. So back in Natty's cabin, Jeremy just shows up out of nowhere. So he's there now. And like, why is he there? He should be with the rest of the cast doing the challenge because he's with 2 staff members. Like, you need to be out there doing the show. That's what you're here for. And they're like,
well,
they don't
his
care.
priorities are obviously to get some nurse pussy.
Yeah. So he doesn't, but he doesn't even seem to give a shit anymore about the $1 million prize. He's like, I don't care about winning. So the 3 of them continue to talk about the situation, blah, 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 blah. Meanwhile, Gay Buddha just ups and quits the challenge, saying that Greg has already won. There's no point in finishing this anyway. So he drops the bike and just wanders off into the woods. He comes to this clearing where he finds a table set up for dinner. There's a glass of wine and a giant chunk of meat. And it is huge. It's like a whole ham almost.
It's like a roast. It's a roast that's barely been singed.
It is pink.
It is raw. It's basically raw. It's not even Pittsburgh style. I mean, it's just like raw with a little bit of cooking on it.
Yeah. So he drinks the wine and he says, oh, that's salty too. So obviously he just drank more blood. And he turns his attention to the chunk of meat. He picks up and just shoves his mouth, starts eating it.
Yeah, there's utensils.
Yeah.
There's a knife and a fork, and there's the sauce. I love the sauce.
Which look like Tabasco sauce.
He keeps saying, the sauce.
The sauce.
Ew. And he puts like a drop of sauce on there.
And he did his best to get as little sauce on the meat as possible.
And there's knife and fork, and you just have to cut off a piece. But no, he just grabs it, the whole thing.
Which, if he would have just
with both hands
cut the piece, use the knife and fork and cut the piece off, he might not have suffered the fate he does.
And what's the fate, Marshall?
Well, the fate is he takes a bite out of it and he gets hooked like a fish because apparently there's a fish hook hidden in the meat, which hooks him through his lip like a fucking bass. And now there's this wire that leads off screen. The wire is yanked, which causes him to fall to the ground, and we hear the sounds of a motor starting up. Now, Gay Buddha is dragged off screen.
And this quote unquote, dragging is some of the worst fucking film editing I've ever seen.
It's awful.
They show his legs like flopping. They show the camera like moving over grass.
Yeah, they show like the POV.
They show his face kind of like twitching around, but there's no movement. It's dog
it's like
shit.
You can tell he's just standing up and they put the camera really close to him and he's just shaking his head back
and you're telling me that this tiny hook inside this guy's face is going to drag a 300 plus 400 pound man
Thank you
all around on the ground.
That was my next point.
It's going to rip right out of his lip and he's going to go, God damn, that hurt.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
That's it.
That was my very next point. Thank you.
It's just horrible.
Yeah, anyway, Gay Buddha is reeled into a lawnmower that's been set up on its side so the blade's exposed. GB is pulled headfirst into the spinning blade of the mower, killing him. He's dead. Later that night, the remaining cast and crew are gathered around a table. In comes a network head, played by Dick Warlock, and he wants to know why the police need to be called, why Warren's not answering his phone, and why they're $20,000 over budget. And again, I'm like, what the shit? How in the hell is this $20,000 over budget? Where did that money go?
Doesn't make any sense.
I'm like, is that what Rich was paid? Is that Rich's salary? Because how is this $20,000 over budget? It's the cheapest thing ever.
Oh God.
So Warlock says he's here to shut it down, and Nelly then comes in and says, "Hey, I found Arthur's body," and he then jumps in saying, "Hey, we found Clark dead too." Warlock's like, all right, that's it. I'm calling the cops. He pulls out his cell phone, and he dials the cops. As soon as he starts talking to the cops on the other end, he gets shot through the neck by an arrow from shit knows where.
Out of nowhere. Aren't they inside?
They're inside a building. So this
where
is
the fuck does this come from?
Unless it came through like the kitchen window, which you don't hear glass breaking or anything. It's just through his neck.
It's retarded.
It is. So everyone panics, makes a run for it. Andy tries to hide in the bunkhouse, but it's too fat to hide anywhere, so he decides to run through the fucking wall and out into the woods.
It's fat guy comedy. I'll try and hide on the mattress. Oh, yeah. I'm too fat.
I'll try to hide underneath the bed.
Oh,
I can't fit
too
under there.
fat. I'm going to hide in the closet. My stomach's hanging out. I'm too fat. And he goes, wow!
And
smashes through the wall.
Fucking Looney Tunes style, like, just silhouette of a wall. Like, he rips through the wall like the Kool-Aid Man or something like that, and he's gone into the woods. So TA is shown in his room with a shotgun, and he goes on the hunt. He's like, all right, I'm going to hunt you down. And he runs outside, turns the corner where he comes face to face with the chicken bucket killer. The killer throws off his gloves and puts up his fist like, come on, let's fight this out.
Let's man-to-man, mano-e-mano.
But instead of just shooting him and killing the killer right there, ending it all, he drops the shotgun to fight him. Now, for some reason, TA starts growling like a rabid dog, and his clothes just get ripped off by
off of him
from some magical force. His clothes are gone.
Fly off of him, and he's wearing pink boxer shorts.
They're pink shorts with green polka dots.
And what does his shirt say?
I wish I were a teddy bear.
That was insane.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
Oh, God. So before he can even reach the killer, he runs into something that causes him to drop in pain.
Yeah, this was so shitty.
I don't know what it is.
Was it supposed to be a rake hitting him in the balls? Something like hit him in the balls.
Yeah,
but you can't tell. It's like he's running at him. It's going to be the epic fight. He steps on something which causes.
He just stops in pain and collapses.
He basically grabs his nuts and goes ah and falls over.
Yeah. What
the fuck happened?
And yeah, you don't know. And the killer just picks up this like metal pole and just impales TA with it, killing him.
Done.
Oh. Fade to black. And we go to Stephanie, Natalie, and Jeremy, who are back in Natalie's cabin. Stephanie takes off her shirt because there's one little drop of blood on it, which I didn't even see, but there's blood on it, so she just takes her shirt off.
Sweet.
Yeah. Jeremy suddenly is like, I'm going to be the hero now, and I'm going out there to do something about this, and he leaves.
And the women just tear into him. How dare you go run off? You're gonna get killed. You're gonna leave. It's like, this poor fuck can't fucking win with these bitches. I swear to God, he's getting shit from him all the time.
Yeah, so they chase after him out. They go outside chasing after him, saying, you're not leaving us alone. But Jeremy's like, nope, I have my mind made up. I'm doing this. He turns to leave, but there's the killer who swings the machete at him but misses. The killer does land a glancing blow to Stephanie's shoulder, though.
So this is a 3-on-1.
This is a 3-on-1, but everybody's a pussy.
Everyone just scatters.
Yeah, the girls run off. Jeremy attacks the killer. Stephanie does come back, picks up the dropped machete, slashes the killer on the arm, and then runs off again.
Yeah.
It's like, just finish him off.
What is happening?
Yeah, the killer gives chase. She hides behind a trailer where she bumps into Jeremy. They hug, they kiss.
Yeah, she's topless.
Yeah,
and they bump.
She's not exposed. She's wearing like a green sports bra.
She's like, you came back from me. He's like, hell yeah, I did, baby. And they start making out. She throws her leg around him, like passionately making out. I'm like, guys, this is not the time.
Not the time nor the place. Because the killer comes up from behind Jeremy, hits him over the back with this metal pole. Then the killer kicks him in the face and impales him through like his fat side, like his love handle. Pinning him to the ground.
He can't get up.
Yeah,
so he's still alive. He can't get up.
Yeah,
he's pinned to the ground through this pole.
And then he stalks after Stephanie. Meanwhile, Warren and Natalie, they bump into each other into the dark, and they suggest that they make a run for his car. And back to the killer, standing over Stephanie, he picks her up by the hair, slams her up against this building, and then starts just beating her, just like wailing away on her.
Yeah. It's pretty violent. It gets a little dark here for a minute.
Yeah, he starts really a little dark.
Beating on her, and then he starts ripping her clothes off.
He pulls out a curved knife and runs it along her face and her body, like all like seductive, like
creepy,
kind of like we saw in
a
Death Spa where they had the knife or whatever it was,
or the limp asparagus.
But then he undoes her jeans.
Yeah, he rips her pants off, and it's like a rapey scene.
Yeah, she manages to slip away.
And she's squirming on the ground, crying. I'm like, this is getting kind of uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's getting really weird.
This is getting uncomfortable here. And this is slapstick fun kind of, and now we're getting a little rapey. Come on, guys. What's going on with the tone here? So,
yeah, I totally agree with you that I felt the same way. But she does manage to slip away. She starts to crawl, but of course she doesn't get far because the killer grabs her, pulls her pants completely off, and then just looks like he's mounted. Like, oh my God, he's gonna rape her.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah,
but then he just stabs her in the stomach.
Yeah,
and we do a really hard cut
and
now.
Jeremy's on the ground going no, because he's fat ass is pinned to the ground.
But now it just like it's an instant hard cut. Like stab her in the stomach, cut. Now he's leaping out of the shadows in front of Warren and Natalie. So he moves fast for a heavy guy. And Warren he's like, fuck it. He just shoves Natalie right into the killer and runs away. He leaves her he's like, I'm out.
No chivalry there.
She does put up a fight, though, landing some like really good Muay Thai kicks.
Yeah,
she's
doing knees. She puts him in a plum.
That's a
Muay Thai plum where you grab the back of someone's head and you start throwing knees.
Yeah, it's like the clutch.
Yeah, and he just starts throwing those in. And I'm like, that's good for her.
Yeah. But he does trip her when she tries to turn and run. Suddenly, Greg comes running in from nowhere and shifting the killer's attention to him. And during this slapstick, pathetic fight, which is basically just a slap fight, which I guess was, again, supposed to be for humor's sake. Greg gets stabbed in the shoulder, falls down. The killer goes back after Natalie. Andy runs up to Greg, who tells him, go help her. Don't leave me. Go get her. So Andy grabs the killer right as he's about to get a hold of Natalie's leg.
Puts him in a decent bear hug.
Picks him up in a bear hug and like starts spinning him around in a circle. And from out of fucking nowhere, the ranger shows up, tells him to stop, and he has the gun pointed at them. And he says, I knew you would come back. I knew you couldn't stop. You killed all those kids. At this point, the killer finally speaks, saying, bullshit, I never killed a kid. Now, from out of the shadows comes Dr. James, who says, no, I did. And James confronts the ranger about standing by and doing nothing once before, and he goes into his villain speech about how no one had any idea what he was actually doing here. Cue flashback of a mother scolding her chubby son for sneaking cookies. And this gets fucking weird. Because she tells her son that boys who sneak cookies become fat, disgusting little blobs that are too heavy for angels to carry away, and the devil comes and gets them in the middle of the night. Holy goddamn, that's harsh to kill a kid. I would hate to hear what this bitch had to say if she caught her son masturbating. Could you imagine what horror's like that way for that kid?
Poor bastard.
So the flashback continues with him talking about how people who eat healthy and exercise are better people, and that fat people are nothing more than abominations. It became his job to save them from a life of shame and mockery, even if they wouldn't save themselves, blah, blah, blah. End flashback. Dr. James removes the chicken bucket from the killer's head to reveal Franklin, the guy who was kicked off the show.
The guy who is overweight but not obese. The guy who did calisthenics. The guy who was not fat enough.
Yeah. And Franklin says he came here for help but was turned away, and only Dr. James would help him, that he believed in him.
So he suddenly was convinced to commit mass murder.
But also makes no sense in a way.
Really? For now we're getting to that?
Yeah, because he told me that he also told me he could cut away all the bad parts, with which he lifts up his shirt to reveal that his stomach's all cut up.
He's a cutter.
Yeah. And he's like, I don't believe any of this. This is bullshit. But before I go on, like, if Franklin was in cahoots with Dr. James from the beginning, I mean, this is something like he believed in me. Like, he knew me. That means James knew him before the show, it sounds like. But he showed up to get help, but said, oh, you turned me away. So now because you turned me away, I'm going to kill you all. It just, to me, it's a contradiction. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, the movie doesn't make... I mean, we're really reaching here.
So Franklin pulls out a knife, it says, believe this, and he attacks Andy. Dr. James knocks the gun out of the ranger's hands, and just like a fucking like green bean or something, just snaps the guy's neck one-handed.
Yeah.
Which, you know how I feel about that.
I do.
Oh, one-handed, just turns the guy's head and just snaps it. Like, motherfucker. Anyway, Natalie takes off running. Dr. James orders Franklin to get her while he takes care of Andy. And he approaches and says, hey, I wanted to kill you myself because you mocked this whole thing. You never took it seriously. You mocked my program.
You're an
fat,
abomination.
disgusting. Yeah. So he pulls out a knife and he goes to stab Andy when Stephanie runs in with a chainsaw and cuts Dr. James across the back of his legs. So, first of all, the way they shot the sequence is horrible. The timing is way off because Dr. James clearly had enough time to kill Andy.
He's like waiting.
And you can tell he's forced to hold back because she was way too far away when she started her run into the scene. Because he could eat. Yeah, it's awful. If you're watching, you know what we talk about. Meanwhile, Franklin has Natalie like this reverse bear hug, but lets her go when he sees Dr. James on the ground. He's like, oh, I have to go help him. So he runs off to help her. But he gets chainsawed to the gut instead. So Franklin is eviscerated by a blood-covered Stephanie now. Dr. James gets up, knocks the chainsaw out of her hand, grabs her by the throat. Natalie runs up behind him, picks up the knife he dropped, and stabs him in the back. The girls walk off like, haha, we got it, he's over. Dr. James pulls out the knife from his stomach, which it makes zero fucking sense because we just saw him get stabbed in the back, but he pulls out from his stomach. And they can't, but I'm like, God damn, this guy can take a beating because he's been chainsawed across the legs. He's
stabbed in the back. Maybe stabbed in the stomach.
And he just stands back and says, you think this is over? "You could never beat me, you little cunts." He drops the C word.
Ooh.
So we have a faggot and a cunt.
And he
dropping
stands
this.
up and he says, "I am your intellectual superior. I am your moral superior."
Yeah. And
he's
then,
making this grand speech, and you hear, what the fuck?
And then he just gets run over out of nowhere by a pizza delivery minivan. The driver gets out with 5 pizzas. He's like, "Is this blah, blah, blah?" He's like, "If I say yes, do I get the pizzas?" He's like, "I don't care. Just take, if you have the money."
If you have money, they're yours.
He's like, "I have this many." And he holds up like a 20. He's like, "Here, take it." He takes the money, drops the pizza, gets in the van, and leaves.
So
that's it. The next morning, the camp is all taped off and crime scene taped. Cops are there. Paramedics are all over. They're walking around. Warren is filming a spot about how he survived this harrowing story and how he risked life and limb to save the day. We cut to Stephanie wrapped in a blanket, sitting next to Jeremy. They chit-chat about surviving, blah, blah, blah. We jump over to 2 paramedics. They're talking about a missing body while staying over the chicken bucket. A third one comes up who's just wearing jeans and a shirt that says, like, paramedic or something like that. And it says that there isn't another body anywhere, so they're completely missing a body. So Natalie then comes up, thanks Greg for saving her life, walks away, but then leaps on him, and they start kissing.
Aggressively making out.
Yeah. So Andy, who is sitting down, holding a pizza box in one arm, wearing an empty pizza box on his head like a hat, while the 2 reward girls, the ones that were grinding on 2 ton,
are massaging his forearms.
They're massaging like his shoulders and arms, yeah. And he tells her like, hey, I'm the one who caught the killer, and I'm gonna be famous. And the girl's like, "Oh, that's hot.
That's sexy. You're gonna
now,
be
what
famous.
are you gonna take those 2 pizzas home with you, or are you gonna take these 2 hot girls home instead?" And he's like, "Can I take you both home?" And,
good answer.
Yeah. Music plays, zoom out, fade to black, roll credits. Now, hidden scene. During the credits, we see Spanish-speaking Josue running down the road. He stops to catch his breath, and a car pulls up to him. And driving the car is Dr. James, who's bloody, and says, "We've been looking for you. You've been missing." Like, and again, he's speaking Spanish. You don't know what the fuck he says unless you speak Spanish fluently. And he's like, "Just get in the car. We'll take you back to camp. Everything's fine." So he does. Josue gets in the car, and once inside, we see Holly from the opening of the film.
The very first opening scene, the fat girl with the chicken bone or the chicken drumstick hair bray.
She's in the passenger seat, and Dr. James introduces her. Oh, she says, "I love foreign man." He's like, "Yeah, this is my niece, Holly." Saying it's her day of salvation too, and then they drive off. That's it. That's the movie.
So does that mean Josue's been running for days?
Yeah, apparently he's been running for days. Yeah, exactly.
And Dr.
James
has escaped because he's all bloody and beat up.
Mm-hmm. There's so many questions about this ending.
It's fucking retarded.
Yeah, he's been running apparently for days. He
apparently hasn't gotten very far.
No.
Even though they show him running at a pretty good clip.
Yeah. He's bloody driving a car, which obviously just got away from the crime scene. Plus,
she's bloody too.
Where did she come from, and why is she bloody? What? And if he hates fat people so much, why is she one? I guess his niece, but she says it's her day of salvation too.
So does that mean she's gonna die?
Yeah. Is he gonna kill his niece now too? Even though we still know who killed Brie Olsen, because by the way, she's the one who. Yeah. She wasn't fat. She was skinny, in shape.
And there's no reason why Brie Olsen died.
Yeah, no reason.
It's like she's in the first 5 minutes. They got her somehow.
Yeah,
and that whole opening sequence has absolutely nothing to do with the movie
at
all.
Nothing.
Fuck.
Yeah, like, why is she dead? Who killed her? Did Holly kill her, or did Dr. James kill her? It doesn't fucking matter, because...
Yeah.
Anyway, and first of all, the other opening scene I want to talk about is the girl that is talking with Brie in the opening scene is also featured on the movie poster for this, and that's it. She's in 5 minutes of the movie. You never see her again.
Motherfucker.
And she's featured predominantly on the movie poster. What the fuck is wrong with this movie? Oh, god damn it. All right, so... That said, let's go on to favorite kills.
There can be only one. Favorite kill.
All right. Aaron, what's your favorite kill for Camp Massacre?
I actually like my favorite kill was seeing the actual killer get the chainsaw to the guts by the nurse. I did like that because, there were real shitty effects. but it kind of still looked like a chainsaw was going into the stomach, and it did a POV, or kind of a shot of her getting sprayed down with blood. It was my favorite kill. I thought it was probably the most aggressive one. It wasn't kitschy. It was kind of, but it was visceral and good for the nurse.
Yeah. I have a hard one with this because just to me they're all so
Stupid.
poorly done and stupid. Like some of you've all seen before. Yeah, the chainsaw is probably the best done one. I don't know. Seeing Brie Olsen naked in the shower is always nice. But,
it is nice.
But her death scene was awful.
Which, by the way, like full frontal too.
Oh, full frontal, everything.
Not. Yeah. Like.
Lexus being smothered in Philip's fat. That's just weird. That's an awful way to go. But at the same time, it looks so stupid. Like I can't take it seriously.
All she had to do was like sit out.
Yeah,
she could have moved a little bit. And, yeah,
or just like put her hand, push the fat down. I mean, I don't know. It was like,
well, the way the guy was grabbing her. I mean, it's a simple move where you just sit out. You just kind of scoot your butt to the side and sit out. You'd be okay. The way he was holding her. So.
There you go. Lawnmower to the head with the. You know what? Fuck. I'm probably just. Fuck. I'll go with you two. I'll go with Franklin and the chainsaw.
All right, 2 for 2.
They all kind of suck, but I guess that's probably the best done one, best effect. So, all right, there you go. I'll go Franklin and the saw.
You sound really disappointed.
I am disappointed.
I'll go with Franklin and
because I wanted something like different. I wanted something to stand out. But anyway, fuck it. Moving on to odds and ends.
Not only did they watch these films, they researched them too. Ugh, what is wrong with these guys?
This week it's gonna be really short because there's not much for this movie. Ratings: IMDb gives it a 5 out of 10, which I'm kind of surprised about. Rotten Tomatoes, again, no score whatsoever, no audience score, no thermometer, just nothing. Amazon,
3.5,
2.3.
Ooh, that's one of our lower ones.
One for Amazon. Trivia: only one thing I could find on this movie was the original title was called Fat Chance.
I like that better. I like that better. It should have been called Fat Chance.
Yeah, that was the original title.
Camp Massacre, you actually think about, doesn't have anything to do with fat people, and the whole thing revolves around fat people.
I guess maybe they changed it because that's too offensive, but the whole movie is kind of offensive if you think about it from a fat person's perspective. But, so that's it for trivia. Budget, couldn't find one, so no budget game this week.
I was going to guess.
Go ahead, take a guess.
60,000.
60,000?
Yeah.
I
just because you had
I don't know, Al Snow, Brie Olsen, Dick Warlock, I would say a little more than that, but
even though they're only in it for a little bit,
I'd say 250 maybe.
Really?
Yeah.
Jesus.
I'm going a little high because like I said,
the effects were shit, everything else was shit. And let's face it, Dick Warlock, Al Snow, Brie Olsen, how much? Dude, she probably spent 3 hours doing that. Not even? You wouldn't pay her that much.
But she still, even though, she's a porn star, but still, you're going to pay extra to get somebody naked.
And she gets top billing. She gets top fucking billing. She's on the cover.
She's on the cover, dead center, and her first name's on the cover, but in the credits it says featuring Brie Olsen. She's not credited first, but still, it's
you're selling But
in the poster, that's who you're selling.
Yeah,
you're selling
like
Brie Olsen,
you rented
Snow,
this
and this
movie
other girl
from Family Video, and the first thing that you see on the front is bam, front and center,
Brie Olsen and Al Snow, and this
shit.
other hot brunette girl who is the one in the hotel room that nothing happens.
Worse,
with.
Yeah, it's just
who's bloody holding it. Yeah, in the cover, Brie Olsen is bloody holding a machete. The brunette girl she's talking to the hotel room is bloody holding a chainsaw.
Yeah.
And they're never even. Yeah. Anyway, so fuck it. But that we do get some 5-star reviews.
Wow.
These special movies have a place in these special people's hearts. 5-star reviews.
Only one. Only one 5-star review.
Please say it's from the fat guy who can't stand.
From Bobby Nash. I am in this one, so I might be a bit biased. 5 stars.
Yeah!
But it's not the fat guy who can't stand. It's the Bobby Nash played Clark, the cameraman who got pulled into the show. The first fat guy to die.
So the first fat guy to die.
Yeah.
5 stars.
5 stars. But because that's all we had, I wanted, let's go to 1-star reviews. I looked at 1 stars, and there were 2 of those that I wrote down. From Sean C. Benton. Other than the nudity, this movie was horrible. 1 star. And from Greg O. 1 star for Brie. I know Brie Olsen is trying to break into mainstream film, but this was definitely not the movie to do it for her. The one and only redeeming factor of this dreadful film is that Brie Olson nude shower scene. The rest of the movie is utter rubbish. Don't waste your time and money on this worthless piece of cinematic trash. 1 star.
We did.
We did. So that's that's all we got.
This podcast felt long.
Well, it was a 2-hour movie.
Oh.
It was a 2-hour movie. So yeah, that's final recommendations, Aaron. What's your closing statements here on Camp Massacre?
Unless you're a fan of 400-pound men flopping around with their shirts off and bad effects, this is for you. However, I'm not into that shit. So bad it's scary.
So bad it's scary. For me, I actually sat down and had to think about this because I've seen it twice now. The first time I saw like, oh, this is fucking awful. I hated it. But when I watched it again this week, I was like, you know what? It's so bad. But Al Snow gives a really good performance, I think. The girl who plays Natalie gives a good performance. There are a few funny things in this movie that are okay, but the fact that it's 2 hours long, it's a chore to get through this thing. This movie does not need to be 2 hours long. It could have, I'm not saying it need to be like one of the 1 hour movies we've watched, but they could have cut out so much stuff from this movie. And that whole opening scene with Brie Olson doesn't even need to be in the movie.
Oh, no.
So that alone makes it almost because of the length. I'm
surprised that you're debating this long.
I'm going to say so bad it's scary, but because of its length and it's a lot of the poor effects and other things, but there are some redeeming things about it. Like I said, if you want Al Snow, now they saved it for me. There's a few funny things with Greg, the confident fat guy that's the director, the guy who directed it. But overall, yeah, I'm gonna say so bad, scary. It's not worth a 2-hour watch.
Right.
If you can fast forward and just watch Al Snow scenes and the scenes with Natalie, that might be worth it. Other than that,
Al Snow scenes, like I said, I mean, the fight scene was okay. It was kind of funny. I just think the Al Snow stuff could have been better. It wasn't bad, but it could have been better. That's all I'm saying.
I totally agree. It could have been better. Totally could have been. I'm saying for this movie, it is probably the best stuff in this movie, in my opinion. Now, who knows? But so there you have it. 2 so bad scaries for this week. That's gonna wrap us up for this week. Remember to check out our Facebook page. You can follow us on our website at horriblehorrorpodcast.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at so bad it's scary. We're on Instagram at horrible horror podcast with underscores between the words. And you can download and listen to the show at horriblehorror.podbean.com along with iTunes as well, where if you check it out, if you like it, give us 5 stars.
Let us know how we're doing because we want to know. Because
give us some comments, suggestions.
Ever since the con, we've been picking up a little bit more traffic. Let us know how we're doing. If we need to do something different, please let us do because
if you think we suck, let us know.
We're doing this for you, so please let us know.
Yep. So that's gonna be it. We'll be back in a week. In the meantime, watch more horror movies and always
keep it loose.
Keep it keep it tight.